1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Hey downtimers, are you looking for modular terrain that could be modified to enhance your military or sci-fi miniature gaming scenes? Are you looking for terrain that's easy and quick to use on your table and perfect for your rapid deployment forces? Are you looking for terrain that gives you walkways, ramps, bridges, bunkers, barricades, high security fencing with a sliding gate? If so, then look no further, because now we have Mod Metal. We'll need a few things to make these, but the main thing we'll need to start off is a large cardboard container for 2.5 dozen eggs. You should be able to find this at your local grocery store. Also, we'll need a ruler, and hopefully you'll have a square in order to get a nice perpendicular and 90-degree angle on the top of the cardboard so that you can make a nice straight line down, perpendicular to all the rows of cardboard. And you want to make sure it's 2.5 inches wide. The length will be about 1 foot, so just, we want to cover the whole thing, but you want to make sure, and you notice I have several markings on this. I really made sure I had the right markings. And I do recommend you use Olfa blades, S-O-L-F-A. I bought this little utility knife here from Lowe's for about $5, and it's totally been worth it. One of the sharpest blades I've ever had, right out of the box. And it's not really easy to cut this with the corrugation the way it is. I don't really know how else to put it. It has like a corrugation to this, so the rows make it difficult. It's a very ribbed kind of cut, so you'll definitely want to score this a couple times before you start cutting into it deep. Just to make sure you have a good straight line with the blade and so forth, and so that it has a nice crisp edge. You want to try your best to avoid tearing. So you definitely want to make sure you have a sharp knife. Also, I use Fiskars rectangular hole punch for this. You can't really use the round hole punch, the standard hole punch. You really need to use the rectangular one for this project. And you want to go all the way over as far as you can when you're trying to do the center cuts. You notice I do 4 on each row, and you want to go all the way to the center on either side to get the center cuts. And then to get the outer rectangular holes, you'll have to go about halfway. You kind of get the eye for it after a while. You kind of get into a rhythm, and you get to know pretty much where you need to stop with the hole punch in order to get the right measurement on the outer rectangles. The easiest way to do it is to go with the inside hole, and then as you're pulling out and away, go ahead and do the outside hole too, and then swap over to the other side, do the inside hole, and then as you're pulling away, go ahead and do the outside hole. You can see here I'm just stubbornly doing the center holes first and then going back to do the outside holes, but you can do it however you like. It really isn't that big of a deal, but the most efficient way is to do the inside holes first and do the outside holes as you're pulling the hole punch back and away to go to the next row. And you'll probably notice as you do this that the outside edges of the cardboard will get kind of squished down a little bit and kind of crimped as you use the hole punch, but I never worry too much about that. For one thing, in the next step, we're going to open those up a little bit more, but I don't think it really takes anything away for those to be kind of crimped looking anyway. So one of the nice side effects of using this rectangular hole punch is you end up with lots of little rectangular shaped pieces of cardboard that you can use for different things like piles of rubble. There's all sorts of things you can use these for in terrain and in miniature basing. Now for this next part, we'll need to get some Q-tips and simply cut off the cotton pieces off the Q-tips, so we end up with basically Q-tip sticks. And I like to use Elmer's Extreme Glue for this. I guess you could use just the regular PVA, but I really like this type of glue here. It's a little bit drier, and I think it applies a little bit better in a situation like this. So this is the kind of glue I would recommend for this particular project. Now, since the openings have been crimped a little bit by the hole punch, we want to make sure to use the Q-tip sticks to open those back up again and get those in there. And of course, you can crimp the other side to kind of hold them in there a little bit, but here in a moment you'll notice once I put in one side, I'll go back and put in another Q-tip stick on the other side so that we have 2 Q-tip sticks per rung on this metal ladder, if you will. So each opening will hold 2 Q-tip sticks. You kind of have to push them in there. It takes a little force sometimes. Obviously you don't want to push too hard because you don't want to tear the cardboard, right? But be sure you put them in there. They're going to be kind of tight, but that's the way they should be. Also, as you do this, you use your thumb to designate whichever one you're on, because it gets really confusing after a while. You'll start going over the same ones, and it's pretty easy to tell once you start trying to put the Q-tip in there and it won't fit, right? Most of the rungs will not hold 3. So, you'll just waste a little time though. So it's a little bit easier to keep track of things using your left thumb if you're right-handed. And that way you can go from one rung to the next and then flip it over and then go from one rung to the next, and then you're done. Also, you want to be careful that the Q-tip sticks stay in the center of the rungs and don't go outward toward where you've already punched holes, because obviously that cardboard is going to be a little bit weaker. The paper there is going to be quite a bit weaker because you've already cut holes in the center pieces there. So if you're not careful, sometimes the Q-tip sticks will kind of go out towards those, and so you just need to keep an eye on that, make sure that doesn't happen. And as I mentioned, this usually works a little bit better if you go one side at a time. So that's, put in one row at a time on one side and then flip it over and go one row at a time on the other side, so that the Q-tip sticks meet in the middle. And so the middle of the rungs are going to be a little more pronounced and a little more solid, and the edges are going to be not quite so solid, so that'll allow a little bit of crimping. Typically it makes things a little more secure when you have them set like that. And it also reduces the amount of tearing you might have if you start trying to force the Q-tips in on the same side especially. And now, of course, we're going to use some hot glue to seal up one side at a time. And you really want to make sure you get the hot glue to cover up every bit of every opening. If there's an opening at all, with Q-tips, it's not quite as big of a deal, but here in a moment you'll see a different method. So you just want to get used to making sure that you have the opening completely covered with hot glue. Also, you want to make sure you put hot glue on the back of these pieces. We want to add some weight, and we want to make sure that they do not slide. And now we're going to look at a slightly different method using finishing nails. So basically, instead of using Q-tips, we're going to use finishing nails. And the great thing about this is not only are finishing nails heavier and offer more stability, we can also add more finishing nails to each rung or each row if we choose. So if we like, we can add up to, I believe they hold up to 3 or 4 per. I'd recommend going 2 or 3, no more than 3, just because it can get actually too heavy if you use more than 3 in each rung. But you will notice that it's a lot easier dealing with these. You don't have to worry about using any kind of glue with these, or I didn't. And you have to use your arm, and it makes things a lot easier if you just lay it out flat. But of course, I'm trying to get this on camera, so it made things a little more difficult to get on camera properly. But if you simply hold the piece down flat and go in from the sides using the same basic method we used before, then you can go in and put hot glue on one side. Then you can just flip it over, put nails in on the other side, and then put hot glue on that side, and then hot glue on the bottom, and you're done. And I just want to show the difference between the two, between the Q-tip version and the finish nail version. And the one on the right is the Q-tip version, the one on the left is the finish nail version. And you'll notice there's a pretty significant weight difference. You see how easily the left one bends versus the right one, and that's due to the weight of the nails, obviously. I will say there are advantages and disadvantages in each, and we'll look at some of those coming up in future videos. But for now, you probably want to make at least 3 or 4 of each, and that should give you a really good base group of terrain pieces for use in the Mod Metal system. Now you'll just need to prime the terrain pieces, and you also want to get some popsicle sticks and tongue depressors, and you'll want to prime those as well. And those will come in real handy, and we'll show you why in the next video. And that'll be coming out very soon. If you would, please leave us a comment, like, subscribe, and share. And as always, guys, thanks for watching.